Class, Chapter 5, Repetition Structures. That means loops. Programmers love loops. You can get so much done with them. For example, let's say you wanted to output hello 100 times in a program. You could write 100 print hello statements one after the other. But if you knew how to write loops, you could write one print hello statement and put it inside a loop that was going to run 100 times. Now in Python, we've got two types of loops. We've got while loops and for loops. And we're going to start by taking a look at a while loop. Take a look here and you can see that we've got the while keyword. And then we have an expression, a Boolean expression, which is going to evaluate to true or false, and then a colon. Now, as long as this expression here is true, the statements that are beneath it and indented will continue to execute. Okay, as long as that condition is true, this loop will continue to cycle. In fact, if we don't change the value of keep going, if we don't change it to something other than y, this loop would keep running forever. And so we have to have a line in here that allows the user to change the value of the keep going variable so that this loop will eventually stop. Another important point about a while loop is it's a pretest loop. If this condition is false from the get-go, this loop will be skipped completely. So we have to have a priming value, as we have up here with this statement, keep going equals y, to get this loop started at all. Alright, let's see how this runs. Now normally you would put code like this in a program. As you can see, I'm in the immediate mode in idle here, and I think we can demonstrate how these loops work just fine in idle. Let's give this a try. I'm going to press enter, nothing will happen, but if I press enter again, there it is. It's running those statements. And now I'm being prompted to enter. I'll try a y. Run again. Try it again. It's going to keep running forever as long as I entered a y. If I enter anything other than y, I'll just try nope. It should stop the loop. Okay, that's your introduction to your while loop. Let's take a look at another example. Here's an example using a numeric variable. I'm assigning num equals 0, and this loop is going to continue to execute while num is less than 10. And what's it going to do? It's going to print the value of num. But this has got a problem. This program is showing a common mistake that all programmers make from time to time. This is going to be an endless loop because I don't have anything in here that's going to change the value of num. Num is going to be 0. This loop says keep going while num is less than 10. Well, nothing's going to change the value of num in this particular loop, and so this should run forever. Let's see what happens. Nothing, but when I press the second time, I get zeros, and I don't know if you can see it flashing down here, but it just keeps running and running and running. That's a programmer error. So what do you need to do in a case like that? You need something like this. You need somewhere in your code, somewhere inside that loop, you need to change the value of num so that it will eventually get up to 10. In this case, we want to increment the value of num by 1. I'm using the plus equals operator. What that means is take the value of num, add 1 onto it, and reassign it to num. So num starting out at 0, num plus equals 1, it'll gradually add 1 onto num until it gets up to 10, or actually until this is false, until it's less than 10, and then that should stop the program. Let's see what happens here. Nothing happens on the first press of enter. Next time though, it does run and gives us the values from 0 to 9. Now you'll notice it doesn't print out a 10 because the condition when the loop got up to 10, this was then false, and so the loop stopped. Num did get up to 10, but this expression is false because it's not less than 10. Okay, so that's another example of a while loop. Here's a for loop. Now the for loop, it can be used in a couple of different ways. The best way is with the range operator. For keyword, here's a variable that's going to hold the value of whatever is specified by this range. Now the range operator works in an interesting way. This is going to print the value of num as it cycles through this range of values. Let's see what happens if I press enter. Nothing the first time, but the second time, you'll notice it goes from 0 to 4. So whenever you see range and a 5, for example, like we have here, that means go from 0 to 4. If I put a 10 in here, it would go from 0 to 9. Okay, it's always going to start at 0 and go up to 1 less than this value here. And each time the value in the range gets assigned to the variable num, and so print num prints each value in the range. Let's look at a few other variations of that. Take a look at this one. I've got 1 comma 11. Can you tell what this one's going to do? Printing num. That's right. It goes from 1 to 10. Instead of starting at 0, if you specified 2 values for the range, the first one is the start, and the second one is not exactly the stop, but 1 less than that will be the stop value for num. So it only gets up to 10. Here's another example using the range with 2 different values separated by comma. So this is going to start at 2, but it won't quite get to 5. And you'll notice I'm using X this time just to show you that you don't always have to use num. Press enter twice, and we get 2, 3, 4. We don't get up to 5, but we start at 2. We've got a lot of flexibility here with the for loop. Here's another example. You can use 3 values. The first one is the start, the second one is the stop. Now this time I want to get up to 100, and of course if I put 100 there it would stop at 99. So I'm going to put 101 here so that it'll stop at 100. Now the third number is going to be the incrementer. So it's going to increase by 10 each time. And each time as it does, that'll be the value of X, and we'll print out X. So let's see what happens if we run this one. And as you can see, we get numbers from 10 to 100 in increments of 10. Now, if that were 100, it would have stopped at 90. Okay. Let's see if we can go backwards. I'm going to try using n this time as the variable. We're going to start at 50. We're going to stop at, oh boy, I think I've made a mistake here. This isn't going to work. This is going to crash. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, nothing. That's what I thought. I want to try that again. For n in range. Now here's what I was thinking. I was thinking of 50, stopping at 0, so I'm going to set that at -1. And I want to decrease by 10. There's the mistake that I made up there. I believe this should work. Let's see. Maybe not. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Went from 50 down to 0. That's why this had to be a -1. If I'd left that at a 1, this would have stopped at 10. But I wanted to go all the way down to 0 and decrement by 10 each time. Pretty interesting. You can have a lot of fun with loops. One more example, just to show you that you don't necessarily have to just do one line of output here. Let's see, we're going to use 1 and comma 5. Well, that means we're going to actually go from 1 to 4, and each time we're going to assign the value to X in that range. And look what we've got in our print. We're going to print X, then a tab, and then X to the second power. So we should get sort of a table from this. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Here's the values of X, and here are the values of X squared. You can do so much interesting stuff, get so much done with loops. Programmers love them. Hope that helps. We'll try some more stuff a little bit later on. We can have loops inside loops. We can also do some really fun stuff with a graphical program. There's a module in Python called Pygame that we can play with, and we'll show you that in the future.